Hello, today I'll be doing a discography review. This time it'll be for the band Static X, a band that I'll be seeing live later this week with Fear Factory. I also have VIP for Static X. Definitely really looking forward to the show. But yeah, this is a band that I discovered, I want to say around 6th or 7th grade, somewhere around there. The Only was the first song that I heard. I saw the music video. When it comes to albums, Start a War was the first album that I heard in full, and also the first CD that I bought from Static X. But yeah, this is a band that I enjoy all these years later, still enjoy them today. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into their discography, starting off with, of course, their debut album, Wisconsin Death Trip. I also have the Push It CD single. But yeah, this album is often considered their best or one of their best, and honestly, I'd say it's definitely their best. And I do think that they would go on to put out other great albums after this too. But yeah, definitely a really great album. Definitely a nu metal classic. You get a pretty interesting mix of nu metal and industrial metal with this album. The big songs on here are still great. I still enjoy Push It, I'm a Stupid, and Blood for Days. Blood for Days, if I remember correctly, is on the soundtrack to Universal Soldier: The Return, a movie that I have seen, and overall, pretty entertaining movie. If you like some good, solid popcorn action movies, stuff like that. But yeah, you have other great songs on here. You move towards the second half, where you get other great songs like Stem and Sweat of the Bud. But you have track 11, The Trance of the Motion, which has to be, in my opinion, one of their most overlooked, one of their most underrated songs. Always been one of my personal favorites on the album. Definitely has a really interesting atmosphere to it, but all around, definitely a nu metal classic. Definitely a really great album. And hopefully when I do VIP, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to get the band members to sign my copy of Wisconsin Death Trip. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to their next album, Machine. I also have the 20th anniversary CD, which came out, I want to say, a year or two ago. And this copy comes with a signed booklet. Not sure who did the Wayne signature though, because again, the 20th anniversary CD came out like a year or two ago or something like that. So yeah, definitely curious of who did the Wayne signature, but either way, definitely cool to have. But yeah, Machine, definitely a really great album. Definitely one of the band's best, in my opinion. And also a pretty great follow-up to Wisconsin Death Trip. It's definitely not Wisconsin Death Trip Part 2. It doesn't feel like they repeated themselves here. But yeah, again, definitely one of my favorites from the band. This would also be the first album with Trip Eisen on guitar, replacing Koichi. And also be their final album with Ken behind the drum kit. But yeah, some of my favorites on here, Get to the Gone, which is probably one of the heaviest songs on here, and also probably one of my favorites on here. Permanence is also really good, another really underrated song on the album. Black and White and Cold are also pretty good, Cold being probably maybe the biggest song on here, definitely one of their big anthems, definitely a really great song. Then you have Otsego Undead. So when it comes to the Otsego songs that they do, Otsego Undead might be my favorite, actually. I really dig that song a lot. In a Bag and Burn to Burn are also really good. You do get some pretty good deep cuts in the album, but yeah, all around, another really great Static X album. Let's go ahead and move on to Shadow Zone. And this album was produced by Josh Abraham. And this guy, I believe, also worked with Stained, a band that I'll admit I'm not a big fan of. Stained has a few songs that I like, and honestly, their album, Dysfunction from '99, I don't think is that bad. I think there's some good stuff on there, but yeah, I've never been a big Stained fan or an Aaron Lewis fan. But yeah, back to this album, something you notice with this album is that it's a bit more accessible, a bit more radio-friendly compared to the previous two albums. And you can probably tell because of the producer here, because again, Josh Abraham worked with bands like Stained. But yeah, this album might not be for every Static X fan. This album is a bit more melodic. You get more singing from Wayne, but I still personally dig the album. Control It, fairly catchy song, one of the highlights on the album for me. New Pain is also pretty good. The Only, one of their big songs is on here, and probably the biggest song on the album. Definitely a really great song. But I'll admit, after Kill Your Idols, the album does start to lose me a little bit or start to lose some steam a little bit. I wouldn't say there's really anything bad on here or straight up bad, but again, after Kill Your Idols, the album does start to get a bit uninteresting in my opinion, except for the song So, which is probably one of their most different sounding songs. I mean, they definitely go into their more melodic side. You get more singing from Wayne in that song, but I personally dig that song actually. It's actually one of my favorites on the album. But yeah, all around, pretty good Static X album. I wouldn't consider it their best, but still, for doing something a little bit different, still fairly good album. But yeah, they would also put out this compilation right here, Beneath, Between, Beyond. And this is a promotional copy, but yeah, fairly cool compilation. You do have a cover of Burning Inside, originally done by Ministry, which features Burton C. Bell of Fear Factory, another great band. But yeah, some of my favorites on here: Breathe, Deliver Me, and Down. Definitely pretty good songs. Yeah, definitely worth owning if you're a Static X fan or if you collect their stuff. But now I'll be moving to this album right here, Start a War, which would see the return of Koichi on guitar. And yeah, this is probably one of my favorites from the band. Something you notice with this album is that it's a bit more darker, a bit more aggressive, a bit more heavy than Shadow Zone. And also this sees the return of Ulrich Wilde in the producer chair. And definitely really cool to see him back. I know Ulrich Wilde has also worked with other bands that I enjoy. As of now, at the moment, I'm blanking out on some of those bands at the moment. But either way, some of my favorites on here: The Enemy, Title Track's also pretty good. Dirt House, which is a contender for maybe being my favorite song on here. I really like that song a lot. But there's really not a single weak song on here, in my opinion. This album really has no skips. You have the song Just in Case, which has been on the more slower side, but also still maintains the heavy. Definitely a really great song. Set It Off is a song that I've grown to love a lot, much more and more with time. Really great song, especially Wayne's vocals in that song, such as in the chorus. I Want to Fucking Break It is definitely a banger. Otsego Amigo has never been one of my favorites on the album, but I do like it though. Night Terrace is another song from the band that I feel is somewhat kind of underrated, but it's all around pretty great album from Static X. Definitely, again, one of my favorites. But now we'll be moving to Cannibal. And yeah, this is another solid album from Static X. Some of my favorites, the title track. You have one of their big songs on here, Destroyer. Definitely a really great song, all around fairly catchy song. You have the song No Submission, another favorite of mine on the album. Then you have the song Cuts You Up, which is another song that's, well, actually might be one of my favorite Static X songs. I really like that song a lot. Reptile is also another pretty good song, a bit on the more shorter side of things, a bit of a shorter track, but still personally really dig it. There's maybe one or two skippable songs on here, but nothing straight up bad on the album, in my opinion. Again, another really good, solid Static X album. And now we'll be moving to, in my opinion, their weakest album, but not terrible. That album is Cult of Static, and this will be their final album with Wayne Static. And yeah, this album is all right. For me, the production, to me, seems kind of lifeless. Doesn't really do a whole lot to really enhance the album, in my opinion. Just feels kind of weak, kind of lifeless. Not the worst production I've ever heard or anything like that, but some of my favorites on here: Lunatic's pretty good album opener. Terminal has always been one of my personal favorites on the album. You have the song Stingray, which is maybe the biggest song on here, and for me, definitely one of the highlights on the album. Isolator is a decent song, but this is an album for me where the replay value just isn't really all that strong. Again, it does have its highlights, but for me, it's easily at the bottom of their discography for me. But again, not a bad album, just decent/okay. But yeah, now I'll be moving to an album that would come over a decade later, and that album is Project Regeneration Volume 1, which has recordings or songs from past album sessions. I believe all of the songs on here are from the Start of War sessions, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I was really into this album when it came out. With this CD copy I got here, I do have a signed booklet. Definitely really cool to have. But yeah, Terminator Oscillator, one of the fan favorites on here. Definitely one of my favorites on the album. Hollow, pretty good song. It was also the first single. All These Years has never been one of my favorites on the album, but I do like it though. It was also the second single. Accelerate, one of the more underrated songs on here in my opinion. Alter Ego Placebo is definitely another highlight for me on the album. Follow is another song on the album, kind of like with Accelerate, that I feel is somewhat kind of underrated, but we definitely have to talk about the album closer, Dead Souls, which features Al Jorgensen from Ministry on vocals. He does vocals in the chorus, and yeah, definitely one of my favorites on here. I mean, I do enjoy Ministry, and I do like Al's vocals in general, and I really dug his vocals with Wayne's in this song. Definitely a really great song for sure. But yeah, the Volume 2 will be coming out later this year, and Volume 1 overall pretty good. I wouldn't rank it as one of the band's best or anything like that. There's maybe 2 or 3 songs on here that I would say are somewhat kind of average / filler, but nothing straight up terrible or anything like that. But yeah, another pretty good Static X album, and definitely has me looking forward to Volume 2. I do have my copy pre-ordered. But yeah, anyways, that is my review of the Static X discography. Let me know your thoughts on my review. Do you agree or disagree with some of my views or opinions on these albums or songs? Let me know some of your favorite or least favorite songs on here or from the band and all that good stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and like, subscribe. Have a nice day and take care.